The Time Warner Center contains not just offices, several floors, more than a dozen floors of offices, but also hundreds of shops. There's a Whole Foods downstairs. Here you see Mayor de Blasio and others approaching the mic. I'll step away.
Thank you. Good.
Yes.
Good to go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Just want to acknowledge, besides the mayor and governor, our partners from the FBI, of course, the FDNY, OEM, Commissioner Esposito, the State Police, and the Secret Service. So today, the NYPD and all of our law enforcement partners responded to reports of a suspicious package on CNN. Our Intel, Emergency Services, and Patrol Borough Manhattan South responded immediately, secured the area, and began a search of the building. Responding officers identified a device that appeared to be a live explosive device. NYPD bomb squad responded, secured the device, and removed it for investigation. Additionally, there was an envelope containing white powder that was discovered as part of that original packaging, and we're in the middle of investigating that right now. The area has been swept with dogs and equipment and found no additional threats besides the white powder. And working with our law enforcement partners, we responded swiftly to secure the scene. NYPD is currently deploying resources around the city out of abundance of caution. If anyone sees something that looks suspicious, please call 911. Anyone with information about this incident today or about incidents in the New York area, please call 1-888 New York City Safe. We've seen this before, and we've seen worse, and we will not be intimidated, and we will bring these perpetrators to justice. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Commissioner. What we saw here today was an effort to terrorize. This clearly is an act of terror attempting to undermine our free press and leaders of this country through acts of violence. I want to make very clear that the people of New York City will not be intimidated, that we're going to go about our lives undeterred, because the very concept of terrorism is to change us, and we will not allow that to happen. You cannot be terrorized if you refuse to allow the terrorists to win. People of this city have shown time and again that they stand up in the face of these efforts to intimidate. And I want to thank the people of New York City for the way they're handling this situation today. I also want to thank our first responders. Commissioner, to you and all the men and women of the NYPD, thank you for your extraordinary efforts today. To FDNY, Office of Emergency Management, our state partners, our federal partners, everyone worked swiftly to address this situation and contain it. I also want to commend everyone at CNN for the professionalism with which they handled this very troubling incident. We, at this time, do not have other credible and specific threats against locations in New York City. I want to let all New Yorkers know you can go about your daily routine knowing the NYPD and all these other agencies are here to protect you. It's important to note that this is an ongoing investigation. As we have more information, we will provide it. But I emphasize there is no specific threat against any other location in this city at this time. That said, the NYPD and all of our partners have reinforced our very clear, visible presence at key media locations around New York City and other important locations. So you will see a lot more police presence. That should be reassuring to all New Yorkers. Finally, I want to say this is a very painful time in our nation. It's a time when people are feeling a lot of hatred in the air. And incidents like this exacerbate that pain and exacerbate that fear. We cannot let the acts of a very few change who we are. It's really important at a moment like this to remember the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of New Yorkers are good people trying to live in peace with each other. There are a few people, and we don't know who they are today, but there are a few people trying to tear us apart through acts of violence. It is imperative that we ensure they fail. It is imperative that we act as the good and decent people that we are. This is a moment in history that's painful, but it will pass. This too shall pass. But today, the important point is, everyone can rest assured the NYPD and all other agencies are out in force to protect the people of this city and to make sure that they can go about their lives safely. Thank you. Governor Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner. First, let's remember that we have the best police force and the best law enforcement agencies on the globe. And we want to thank the NYPD and the state police and the FBI and the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Secret Service, all who have worked seamlessly together and are coordinated. And we should take comfort in that level of professionalism that we have in this city and in this state. As everyone is aware, there have been a number of packages that have been received. Last night, there was the Secret Service detected a package at the residence of President Clinton and Hillary Rodham Clinton. They notified the state police and the NYPD. We personally checked on the president's residence in Chappaqua at about 4:30 this morning, and everything was fine there. This morning, obviously, we have the CNN package, and I want to echo the professionalism with which CNN has handled the situation and the cooperation that they brought to the situation. So I would like to thank them for that. This is the world we live in. Terrorism, the attempt to spread fear, is the world that we live in. It is heightened lately. The mayor is exactly right. There are more tensions than usual, but this is the world we live in. Also, a little perspective. The first terrorist attack in New York City was 1993, 25 years ago, was the bombing of the World Trade Center. So in some ways, this is nothing new. We have lived with this for a long time. Actually, my father was governor at that time. This has been a circumstance of being who we are and where we are. We are New York, and we are an international icon, and for some, we're an international target. Terrorism only works if you let it work. What they are trying to do is scare us and destabilize us, and we will not allow that to happen. We are New Yorkers, we are smart, we are tough, we are resilient, and we will not allow these terrorist thugs to change the way we live our lives. They fail unless we allow them to win, and we will not allow them to win. Now, as the commissioner said, you'll see increased police presence from the NYPD, from the state police, from the MTA police, from the Port Authority police. You shouldn't be alarmed. There'll be more police on subways, more police on the streets, more police at crossings. As the mayor said, that's not because we know any specific threat. It is just a precaution because we are smart and because we have the best talent on the globe when it comes to this. So we will take every precaution we can, but we will not let terrorism win. Not today, not ever. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have with me Special Agent in Charge Brian Parman. That's P-A-A-R-M-A-N-N, who's Special Agent in charge of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force here in New York City. As the governor outlined, this begins on Monday night with a package that was delivered to a residence in Westchester County That was responded to by the Westchester County Police, the Bedford Police, and FBI Special Agent bomb technicians. That package was disrupted and taken to the FBI lab. Overnight, late last night, we received word of the package that was delivered to the Clinton residence, or was intercepted before delivery to the Clinton residence in Chappaqua, New York. That is also going to the FBI lab. After that, we were notified by the Secret Service that they had received a nearly identical package in Washington addressed to the Obamas. At that point, we began to take additional proactive steps. We had gone to locations the day before associated with the first individual who was targeted. Today we went out to offices of elected officials, media outlets, television, and in fact, when the package was discovered here in the CNN mailroom, we had NYPD personnel present who were showing them what these look like and what to be on the lookout for. So at this point, we are talking with other FBI field offices, the JTTF, about other incidents that are unfolding in other places. But suffice it to say, it appears that an individual or individuals sent out multiple similar packages. We have been working with corporate partners and the private sector. We have prepared a product through the NYPD SHIELD program, which goes to approximately 20,000 of our private security partners, instructing them on what to look for, what the characteristics are, and renewed tips on handling of suspicious packages. At this point, we're at a very early stage in the investigation. This is being led by the Joint Terrorism Task Force here in New York City with the FBI, the NYPD. We've had assistance from the New York State Police, who are part of that task force, and assistance from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So it's a big group effort. The incident here today, once the package was discovered, emergency service was notified. They called the bomb squad. The bomb squad was able to safely remove a device contained in that package using the total containment vessel, the TCV, or in simple terms, the bomb truck. That has gone to our range at Rodman's Neck, where FBI Special Agent bomb technicians will work with our people on how to get it to the next stop, which should be the FBI lab, so all of this evidence can be examined together. There is an additional issue which is being worked on now, which is within the package that contained the suspected device is also some kind of powder. That's being tested now downstairs. So
Saudi-Turkish relations aren't exactly in a great spot right now, as both countries push their own message on what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. It came to a head Tuesday when Turkey's president, Recep Erdogan, claimed the murder of the Saudi journalist was premeditated. But even before then, the two were on opposite pages about what happened to Khashoggi after he disappeared inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. It started with Saudi Arabia's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who, one day after Khashoggi mysteriously disappeared, told Bloomberg that the journalist actually left the consulate. The Saudi consulate backed this up with a statement the next day. Turkey claimed the opposite and said he was still inside the
that on a field test, package it up safely for removal, and decon that area and anybody who came into contact with it.
Commissioner, you want to lead the questions? We're going to take, just keep in mind, that this just happened a couple hours ago. It's still ongoing. So we're going to take some questions. We're not going to be able to go too deep into it. Yes?
Can you talk about how concerned you are about the seeming political connection between these targets? People who have been criticized by the president?
Well, take a look at who's being targeted here right now. And that's why we're doing this proactively. We're reaching out to people throughout the city, checking with the people that do their security and making sure that their mail rooms follow proper protocols. So it is of concern to us, and that's how come we're reaching out to the right people.
Could you describe...
Hold on.
Mayor and Governor, earlier this week, the president commended a now sitting congressman for assaulting a journalist. There's been all sorts of threats to journalists and shootings earlier this year. Do you have a particular message to President Trump in light of what happened at CNN and to critics like John Brennan and like Hillary Clinton?
Look, I'm just going to say something broad, because at a time when there's a lot of hatred and division, it does not make sense to exacerbate it. Let's just say this to all public officials of all partisan affiliations. Don't encourage violence. Don't encourage hatred. Don't encourage attacks on media. You could disagree, but you have to show respect for people and air your disagreements peacefully. So unfortunately, this atmosphere of hatred is contributing to the choices people are making to turn to violence. There's no question about it. And the way to stop that is to turn back the other way, to bring down the temperature, to end any messages about the use of violence against people we disagree with. And that has to start at the top.
This is a political year. It's a political season. We are weeks from an election, and that's obviously in the air, and that's an obvious fact. But we've been through many political seasons, and we have political differences, and that's actually good for democracy. What is not good is overheated rhetoric, extremism that pushes people to violence. And at the end of the day, we may have political differences, but this is one country. We're all Americans, e pluribus unum, out of many one, and keeping the debate and the dialogue civil is very, very important. And for elected leaders who in many ways set the tone, it is especially important.
Can you describe the device? Hold on. Right there.
Can you describe what the device looks like that was found?
John?
Sure. Brian Farman from FBI JTTF. So far, the devices have been what appear to be pipe bombs.
If I could, I'd like to make a statement. I know that a lot of the public right now is scared and concerned, and there's a lot of confusion surrounding this. I want to assure you that the reason we are here, because the totality of the federal, state, and local authorities will investigate this thoroughly and follow every lead, and we will turn over every rock, we will turn every corner, and we will talk to everybody that we have to in order to mitigate this threat. The mission of the New York Joint Terrorism Task Force is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. The utilization of violence in order to further one's own political agenda is unacceptable to us, and we will not rest until we find this, stop these hazardous devices from being mailed, and bring the individual or individuals to justice. We have no better partners in the NYPD, the New York State Police, and the entirety of the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We will be on this until the day that we find this individual and bring him to justice. I'd like to thank NYPD and our partners on the task force, as well as the United States Secret Service, as well as the U.S. Capitol Police, as well as the Westchester County authorities for the cooperation and collaboration that we have thus far. With that, I'll turn it back over for questions.
Mayor de Blasio, you mentioned that Mayor de Blasio.
Hold on a second.
As you've heard, there is a number of devices, and there's a pattern, apparently, to the number of devices. We wouldn't be at all surprised if more devices show up. A device has been sent to my office in Manhattan, which we were just informed about, and that device is also being handled. So again, this is a situation. A number of devices have been sent. They're being handled. We wouldn't be surprised if additional devices are sent. And the device that is been sent to my office has been identified and is being handled as we speak.
Governor, is it related to these other ones? Are they related?
Right. Terrorism related, right? Terrorism is an attempt to strike terror, an attempt to strike fear. Obviously, these devices are an attempt to strike fear, hence terrorism. Are they domestic? Are they international? These are all questions that would have to be handled by the investigation. But yes, it was a terrorist attempt. It was a terrorist attack. And as you said, what's the intent? To strike fear. And when they strike fear, they win. That's when they are effective. Who controls that? We control that. We control that. This is not the first time we have been through this. We have been through this many, many times. Literally, as I mentioned before, it goes back 25 years to the first World Trade Center bombing. This is New York. It is part of who we are and part of our profile. So we refuse to be intimidated. We refuse to allow them to make us afraid of going through our daily lives. We have the best law enforcement agencies. We're all working together. We're all here, and we're going to go about our daily lives, enjoying this beautiful city and state, and we're not going to let them win, period. Kate, you had a question?
Two more questions, guys.
Commissioner, was anything written on the packages? What was the return address?
Yeah, it's all in. I'm not going to go into what exactly was on the package. Okay, it was consistent with the other packaging, though. Listen, we have to go back to work, so we're going to give you updates throughout the day. I just want to remind everybody here and all New Yorkers: any tips, any leads, call 911 or 1-888 NYC SAFE. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Any other locations?
I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. We've just heard from law enforcement and the political leaders in New York City and New York State saying these were acts of terror. And we've also just heard from the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, saying that a suspicious device was just found addressed to his New York City office as well. Suspicious devices at George Soros's residence outside of New York City, Hillary and Bill Clinton's residence outside of New York City, Michelle and Barack Obama's residence here in Washington, D.C., the CNN New York Bureau, the Time Warner Center, a suspicious device that has now been removed, it believed to be some sort of bomb. It's been taken to a secure facility that was addressed to the former CIA Director John Brennan, care of CNN. There are other developments unfolding right now. I quickly want to go to our correspondents and our anchors who were at the CNN Bureau in New York. Poppy Harlow and Jim Sciutto were anchoring coverage when all of a sudden the alarms went off that something awful was about to unfold. Walk us through, first of all, give us, Poppy and Jim, your reaction to what we just heard from law enforcement.
Wow.
Well, there was a lot of news there, Wolf, in that press conference. First of all, confirming it was a live explosive device sent to CNN, and just something we've been noting all morning that made its way into the CNN building, right all the way to the mailroom.
Yes.
And that in addition to that live explosive device, an envelope that contained white powder. They haven't identified that powder yet, but of course, as you know, often happens with these, the concern, what could that powder be? Could it be biochemical weapons, something like that? So out of an abundance of caution, they are looking into that and calling it out for what this was, an attempt to terrorize. This was an instance of terrorism on the streets of New York City.
And as our colleague Jake Tapper so aptly put it, an attempt at mass murder, because that is what it is. Here at CNN, at all of these other locations, we have emergency vehicles behind us, obviously. But again, a live device with white powder made it to CNN. We know that the call to the NYPD was made, Wolf, this morning at 9:58 a.m. It was shortly after the top of the 10 a.m. hour that the alarm went off, and we immediately went off the air and came outside. What struck me is what we heard across the board from officials, Jim. It was Mayor de Blasio who at the beginning of that press conference said, this is terrorism, this is an effort to terrorize, and it was echoed by New York City Police Commissioner James O'Neill, who said, look, you can disagree, but violence should never be a part of it. And he said, notably, Jim, it starts at the top.
It did. I mean, that was the New York Commissioner of Police, O'Neill, saying very explicitly, don't encourage attacks on the media. that contributes, he said, to choices people are making. There's no question about it. That's quite a reprimand, you might even call it, from the Commissioner of Police in New York to the kind of rhetoric that we hear in public, not just the media in the targets, but public officials and so on. And that's a law enforcement official who takes these things very seriously.
Right.
And no city and no police department in the country knows that better than the New York Police Department.
And it is not a partisan comment. He is stating the facts. You look at the facts of who and to what entities and what people these explosive devices were sent to in the last 36 hours. And then you look at, from the governor to the mayor of New York City to the police commissioner, saying this is the world we live in, this is the tone and the rhetoric comes from the top.
Jim and Poppy, you guys can't go back in, I take it, into the CNN bureau at the Time Warner Center because of the suspicious powder that was located. They're still dealing with that. Is that right?
That's right. That would be a good assumption. The explosive device is left. We reported that was live on the air nearly an hour ago. The white substance, you have to assume standard procedure would be get the bomb-sniffing dogs in there after the explosive device is removed to make sure there aren't other devices that are similar. White substance, question if it was exposed in any way, distributed in any way. That's another thing you have to confirm is safe before you allow folks back into the building.
And again, CNN is housed on multiple floors inside, but Wolf, as you know, this is a big complex, the Time Warner Center. You have a huge apartment complex that is built in, a lot of corporate offices, a lot of our colleagues in different parts of the company. There are a huge shopping mall with restaurants. There are a lot of people in and out of that building every day, so we actually have no idea when we're going back in, even internally from internal CNN communication. We just don't know at this time.
And they will exercise, as you'd expect, an abundance of caution. They want to be 100% certain before we and the other folks who work in that building or even who work on this street here behind us are allowed back onto the street.
And so just from a reporting standpoint, for the first hour that Jim and I were coming to you immediately in the aftermath of this, we were coming to you from a phone, from essentially a Skype-like program on the phone, and now we finally have our live capability up. But it takes a minute when obviously you're evacuated so quickly.
Yeah, we're grateful that you guys, all of our CNN colleagues, in fact, everyone over there at the Time Warner Center got out as quickly as they did. Josh Campbell is joining us.